you downloaded those figures into the database yet?
I'm trying, but the import files won't load into the right fields.
Here, let me take a look at it. Here's your problem. You need to define the limits of the fields, otherwise all the information gets jumbled up together. All you need to do is separate them, like this. See?
Didn't it seem like he was invading her personal space? And that looked a little too cozy.
Do you really think so? Because it didn't seem like he was doing anything wrong to me.
What do you think? Could this lead to a sexual harassment complaint?
In this program, we're going to take a look at scenes like the one we just watched and try to determine if any kind of sexual harassment is taking place.
We've designed this program to look a little closer at the gray areas, those fine lines that often get crossed and create grounds for a legitimate sexual harassment complaint.
Is it sexual harassment?
You make the call. Sexual harassment. It's one of the most controversial and least understood issues in today's working environment. But it's a reality that continues to plague our society. In 1 year alone, there were over 15,000 charges filed with the EEOC. Sexual harassment continues to fill our headlines and our courts. Yet there continues to be confusion about what exactly sexual harassment is and what it is not. It is rarely a clear-cut issue. Courts continue to litigate sexual harassment claims that fall into the many shades of gray.
If we use this space for storage, it's going to free up this whole area over here.
Yes, I think that'll work out good. Steve, I'm sorry to hear about you and Susan.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, I really think you deserve someone better.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Another thing we need to consider
I
is...
just meant that you need someone that can give you the things you need. You know, treat you right. Someone like me.
Now, from my perspective, that was not sexual harassment.
Maybe, maybe not. But don't you think we need some more information, like the history of the relationship between these two?
You mean like if they've dated or if she's come on to him before, things like that?
Right. I mean, if he said no in the past, he shouldn't have to say it again.
But what about the fact that she's being very subtle? She's only hinting that she wants to go out with him.
I don't think being subtle gets you off the hook. And what about this? Let's say she's friends with his boss, and he thinks his job could be in jeopardy if he doesn't keep her happy.
You mean if he thinks she has some kind of power over him? Interesting.
Most people believe that sexual harassment is about sex. In reality, sexual harassment is about power, or the abuse of power.
You wanted to see me, Mr. Walker?
Hi, Mary. Come on in. You can close the door if you want. Have a seat.
Thank you.
It's later than I thought. Look, it's almost 5 o'clock. Do you need to go, or do you have a few minutes?
No, I'm fine.
Great. First of all, I want to tell you that everyone was very impressed with your work on that Harrison project, including me.
Well, thank you.
And secondly, I have a management position opening up that, quite frankly, I think you would be a perfect candidate for it, and I wanted to see if you were interested.
Mr. Walker,
It's Jim.
Yes, Jim, I would be very interested.
Great. Tell you what, why don't you and I go out to dinner and talk about the details? I know, perfect place. We can discuss what the position entails, and if you're right for the job, maybe afterwards we can celebrate a promotion. Of course, I still have to go over a lot of specifics with you before I can make a decision.
I don't know about this one.
Yeah. He's in dangerous territory here. He's her boss, and he seems to be implying that her promotion depends on having dinner with him.
Once again, it's subtle, but if he's implying a you do this for me and I'll do that for you kind of arrangement, then that's quid pro quo harassment, and she could file a complaint. Quid pro quo applies anytime a supervisor or someone with authority offers or withholds work-related benefits in exchange for sexually related favors. However, there doesn't need to be a blatant sex for favors type of exchange for the behavior to be considered quid pro quo sexual harassment.
Hi, come on in. Hi. I need to show you these orders before I phone them in. Sure. Have a seat. I just want to say how glad I am they chose you for this job. We've needed help in here a long time now. Thanks. I'll do my best. Oh, I'm sure you'll do just great. Excuse me, I just got to grab a file real quick.
Okay, that woman is obviously very physical in how she relates to other people.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people who are huggers.
Right.
They're friendly, they're outgoing, but there's nothing sexual in the way they relate to people.
Still, it doesn't matter. The behavior made the woman's coworker uncomfortable, and that's what we have to focus on.
Yeah, you're right. And sexual harassment cases are generally based on the victim's perceptions of what happened rather than on the intentions of the person accused.
It also doesn't matter that it's not between a man and a woman. Sexual harassment can occur between two women, or two men for that matter.
Overall, it's probably safer to have a general hands-off policy in the workplace. What one person thinks is an innocent pat or a hug could be perceived as unwelcome touching. In cases of sexual harassment, it is the perception of the victim or the accuser that takes precedence in a court of law over the intentions of the person accused. The courts have to determine if the perceptions of the victim are reasonable. This is often referred to as the reasonable woman or reasonable person standard. Even when an employee's or supervisor's intentions are totally innocent, the possibility exists that his or her actions could be reasonably perceived as sexual harassment.
Yeah, a group of us were headed down to the beach this weekend if you want to join us.
Oh, yeah? Sure. Hey, Angela.
Hey, guys. Did I hear you say you were going to the beach this weekend?
Yeah, a bunch of us are going on Saturday. You want to come?
I went last weekend with my sister and her two kids. We had so much fun.
Not me.
What do you mean?
I wasn't there to see you in your bathing suit.
You guys have a really nice day.
What? I was just kidding. What?
Tacky.
Well, but he was just kidding around. Well, it didn't seem like he meant anything by it.
But his behavior could be perceived as creating a hostile work environment.
True.
His remarks were unwelcome, they were sexually oriented, and she seemed offended.
And that creates a potentially uncomfortable working environment. Of course, an isolated incident like this doesn't necessarily mean that a hostile environment has been created.
But if it's repeated, or if that one incident is severe enough, there could be a problem. Hostile environment sexual harassment is any sexually oriented and unwelcome behavior that causes psychological discomfort and interferes with an employee's ability to carry out his or her job responsibilities.
So then he says to her, well, what do you say, honey? It's a free ride.
That's funny. That's really funny.
Then there's this one about the secretary. She used to wear a fur coat every day to work. Yeah, and then she...
Obviously, these guys weren't trying to harass him, but they should have been more aware of their surroundings. He's clearly uncomfortable with their jokes.
While it's good to have a sense of humor, we need to be cautious and respectful of other people.
Inappropriate humor, especially sexually explicit jokes or comments, can cause a lot of problems. While humor can have a positive effect on our working relationships, inappropriate humor can be dangerous and destructive. It's important to exercise good judgment.
Or we could alternate the new entries to make the changes more legible.
Hey, you!
Well, hey, yourself!
Oh, hey, Monica.
Hello. Well, what's up?
Oh, nothing much. I had to drop a PO off the element, and I thought I'd stick my head in and say hi.
Hi.
Oh, God. I gotta get back. Good seeing you.
Bye-bye. Is he always that affectionate with people?
Oh, don't worry about him. He's harmless.
So, here we have two close friends greeting each other, but I think I see a problem.
What problem? The two people hugging didn't seem uncomfortable with each other.
No, not them. It was the woman watching who seemed uncomfortable. You see, their actions created a hostile environment for her.
Good point. In this situation, it's the perception of the third party that should be considered.
Sexual harassment can occur when a third party is made uncomfortable by other people's behavior, even if the behavior is not directed at the third party. That's why it's important to remember that your behavior affects the people around you.
Hello?
Hello.
Again?
Hello. Can I help you?
Well, you definitely could, but that would have to wait until you get off work. In the meantime, would you buzz Mr. Alberts and tell him Wayne Everett's here, got a 2 o'clock appointment?
Yes, sir. Mr. Everett's here for your 2 o'clock appointment. Thank you. He'll be with you in just a moment. You can have a seat if you'd like.
Thank you. You know, you get prettier every time I see you. You look really great. Are you working out?
Wayne, good to see you.
Hey, Bob, how's it going?
Good, good. Well, why don't you come on back to my office?
Bob, I don't know how you do it. If I had a secretary this good looking, I mean, I could not get any work done.
Mr. Albertson, may I have a word with you, please?
Sure, sure. Wayne, why don't you head on back? I'll be there in 1 second. Yeah, what is it?
That's the guy. You know, with the phone calls and the messages.
You don't have to worry about him. He's all talk.
What's wrong with this manager? I mean, doesn't he see that there's a problem?
I know. His lack of concern is scary.
I don't think he realizes that his company may be liable if a sexual harassment complaint is filed.
What the manager really needs to do is to take the situation seriously. He needs to document the incident and take steps to end the harassment.
Yeah, he needs to know that it's sexual harassment, regardless of whether the offender works for the company or not.
Sexual harassment doesn't have to involve someone from inside the company in order for a complaint to be made. Sexual harassment cases can involve customers, suppliers, and service people. And a company can become liable if anyone in authority is aware that an outside party is sexually harassing an employee and no actions are taken to stop it.
That's a great outfit, Rebecca.
Thanks.
This didn't strike me as harassment.
I think we agree. But what about her perceptions? I mean, what if she thinks it's harassment?
That's a good point. But let's go back to the reasonable person standard. It exists to protect both sides. Basically, it asks the question, would a reasonable person find this behavior to be sexual harassment?
Well, you know, in this scenario, I think any reasonable person would say, it's clear. He wasn't harassing her. But you know, I think there's one other thing we haven't talked about.
What's that?
Handling harassment once it's happened. If someone thinks they're being harassed, they should speak up and explain that they're uncomfortable with the behavior and ask that it stop.
And if it doesn't stop, the incident should be reported to a manager or someone in the Human Resources Department.
Recent Supreme Court rulings have reinforced the importance of having anti-harassment policies and a clearly communicated grievance procedure.
And it's the responsibility of all employees to follow these policies and procedures. Sexual harassment does not have to be a part of the workplace. Heightened awareness, sensitivity to the perceptions of others, and mutual respect can be a safeguard to help you and your organization create a pleasant working environment for everyone. Sexual harassment doesn't have to be obvious to be a problem. In fact, most occurrences are extremely subtle.
Any sexually related conduct that causes someone to feel uncomfortable or interferes with their ability to do their job could be considered sexual harassment.
Be aware and be smart.
Here are some other suggestions. In terms of relationships, no never means yes or even maybe. It means no.
It's also important to remember that the victim's perception carries more weight in a court of law than the intentions of the accused.
Exercise caution and good judgment when using humor in the workplace. Inappropriate humor can be extremely harmful.
It's also a good idea to avoid unnecessary physical contact or outward displays of affection while on the job.
And even if both employees are comfortable with outward displays of affection, keep in mind that a third party may be offended at such displays.
Organizations can be held responsible for sexual harassment charges if they fail to take action after an employee has made a supervisor or other authority aware of a harassment problem. It's important to document all cases, even if the offending party is not an employee of the company. Taking responsibility for eliminating sexual harassment begins with you.
You make the call on behaviors that keep your work environment positive and productive for everyone.